This video is going to talk about how to divide whole numbers by fractions. And what you're going to notice is that when we're dividing whole numbers by fractions or dividing by fractions is that our answer is typically going to get bigger than the numbers in our problem. And you're going to see why in a minute, but basically it's going to be due to the fact that we're taking something and breaking it into smaller pieces of itself. And when you break something into smaller pieces of itself, then there's going to be more pieces there. So if we take a look at this problem, 4 divided by 1/2. What this basically means is we have 4 things and we're going to break them into halves. We're going to divide them into half sections. So I have 4 things right here, and I'm going to break these 4 pieces of chocolate, crackers, whatever you want them to be, into halves. And now that I've broken these 4 things into halves, now I have more pieces than I have before. They're smaller than I had before, but I still have more pieces. In fact, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 8 pieces. So 4 divided by 1/2 is 8. Which is great when you're able to draw a picture for everyone, but eventually you're going to get into the fractions that are a little bit more unwieldy, and you're going to have to know how to do this by doing the math. So here's what happened when we did this. What we actually did right there is we turned this into a multiplication problem. We multiplied the reciprocal. What this means is that we took our 4 things, and because we're dealing with fractions, we're going to take that 4 and turn it into a fraction. We're going to put 4 over 1, and we actually multiplied those 4 things by 2. Every one section got split up into 2, so that denominator actually became the numerator. And then I took 1 piece of each of those sections, so my numerator in the second number actually became the denominator. So what I actually did was I ended up multiplying 4 times 2, and 4 times 2 is 8, and 1 times 1 on the bottom is 1, so my answer was 8. Might seem a little bit confusing on the first example. We have a second example, but first I want to review what reciprocal means, because it's not a word that we've used in the classroom before. So what reciprocal means, what we did here with this second number, is it basically means to flip-flop. So I'm going to take 15 over 9, and I'm going to find the reciprocal, or the flip-flop of that fraction. And the reciprocal of 15 over 9 is 9 over 15. I just flip it upside down, and I found my reciprocal. The reciprocal of 3/7 is going to be 7 over 3. I've got my reciprocal. The reciprocal, or the flip-flop of 1 over 6 is 6 over 1. Or just 6. That is the reciprocal of 1/6. So when I look at this problem, which says 2 divided by 3/8, that means we've got 2 things here, and we want to divide it up into 3/8 sections. Let's say that I have a bag of candy, and I want to divide it up. It's a 2-pound bag of candy, and I want to divide it up into 3/8 pounds bags, because, I want that much candy in my life. So I'm going to take this 2 and divide it into the denominator, which is 8. So I'm going to break this up into eighths. And now that I've got my 2 broken up into eighths, I'm going to divide those eighths into groups of 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full sections, and I've got 1 little section left over here. I've got 1/3 left over because it takes 3 to make a group, and I've only got 1 piece left there, so that's 1/3. Now let's do this showing the math and see what it really looks like when we're doing it without drawing the pictures. It was 2 divided by 3/8. I'm going to take this 2 and it's going to be a whole number, but I'm not going to change this first number. It's just going to be put into a whole number. The division sign is going to change to a multiplication sign, and I'm going to find the reciprocal of 3/8, and the reciprocal of 3/8 is 8/3. And what that means when I multiply is I'm going to multiply 2 times 8, which is 16, and multiply 1 times 3, which is 3. And now I have 16/3, which is not an appropriate answer because it's not simplified as far as it can go. So when I take 16/3 and I make that L, 3 goes into 16 5 times. 3 times 5 is 15. I'm left with 1 down here, which means I get the same answer of 5 1/3. We're going to take a look at one more problem. We're going to take a look at 8 times 3/5. I'm sorry. It's not a multiplication problem yet. We have 8 divided by 3/5. And because I have 8 divided by 3/5, I do not change the first number. It's not going to change in meaning, but I do need to make it a fraction. So that's going to become 8/1. Same thing, but now I have to multiply the reciprocal, which means I need to take this division sign and make it a multiplication sign. And then I need to take 3/5 and I need to find the reciprocal, which is going to be 5/3. So now I have 8 times 5, which is 40. And then on the bottom I have 1 times 3, which is 3. So now I just need to adjust this answer. So I need to make the ln divide. 3 goes into 40, 3 goes into 4 one time. 3 goes into 10 3 times. I'm left with 1. So my final answer is going to be 13 1/3. The question that you're going to be solving in the form is 6 divided by 1/3.